800-0868.
This past week, I was watching the news following the attacks in Brussels, and like many of our listeners, certainly thinking about its the people involved and its impact on the world and the global economy. Meanwhile, the president was out watching a baseball game, and I know former Congressman Pete Hoekstra, former House Intelligence Committee chairman. I know you've got a few things to say on the subject. Pete, thanks for joining us back on Get Down to Business.
Hey, thank you. Good to be with you.
So what do you think the president was thinking while he was watching the game? Do you think he was into the game, or he was maybe a bit distracted? Do you want to give him that benefit of the doubt?
I'll give the president that benefit of the doubt. The president made it very clear this week that what he wanted to do was demonstrate to ISIS and radical jihadists that his schedule was not going to be impacted, and that he was trying to send a signal that America's schedule would not be impacted by these terrorist attacks. There are those of us that disagree with that strategy and what he was communicating, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He knew what he was doing. I don't necessarily think it was the right thing to do, but that's what he did.
That's for sure. And I know you were quoted this past week saying that this is an all-out war, and I agree with that. And I think that many in this country might be in denial of the fact that this is an all-out war on the West, and it's we don't seem to have a plan to address it. But as the radical Islamic terrorism is happening again and again and again throughout Europe, our economy, the global economy, seems to be attempting to rebound, but it just seems there's another attack, another incident that's affecting travel, affecting commerce. What do you think the effects of these attacks are having on the economy here in the U.S. and around the world?
Well, I'll tell you, I think I'm absolutely kind of amazed with the impact that the minimal impact it has had here in the United States. Obviously, our growth in December, last month, 1.4%, anemic growth rate, but there's a number of reasons for that. But, with what we see, and we're going to have a major study coming out actually tomorrow on the Investigative Project on Terror where I work, that demonstrates that, this threat from radical Islam, it's going to be a huge problem in the Middle East. It's growing in significance in Africa. Europe obviously is at risk, and it's also starting to spread into Asia. So it's a global phenomena. But the world economy has been relatively resilient, but I don't think that's going to continue. I think Europe's going to have a very, very difficult summer, and I think you're going to see it's going to impact the economic climate there, just the general tone of business. And I think for them, they're very dependent on travel. I think there's going to be a lot of people by the time we get to June and July who are going to be rethinking their travel plans to Europe.
I agree. I think that the travel piece is the conversation has started over the past week about how little that has been discussed. People are used to it being so easy to jump from country to country and get around so quickly, and that generally speaking, things have been safe. But incident after incident, including this most recent one in the train stations as well as at the airport, right outside the American Airlines check-in, I think will cause people to think long and hard about travel throughout Europe, but frankly here in the U.S. as well. This past week I traveled. I had 6 different flights, and I'm running in and out of airports, and everybody's used to the annoying TSA checkpoints. But that's deep into the airport. There's a lot of risks ahead of that point, and I know that you, as the former House Intelligence Committee chairman, I'm sure that you've been privy to many of the threats, but this seems to be a new one, and it's certainly something that's not going away. So I think it's something that will start to affect how people conduct business, and that is coming our way. But Pete, you have endorsed Governor John Kasich in his campaign for president, and you continue to stand by him. Why?
I think John is I served in Congress with John. John's a real leader. This is a guy that when I was in the House, when I got there in 1993, John became chairman of the Budget Committee in 1995, said, hey, we're going to balance the budget. People laughed. They discounted him. And, a couple of years later, we were on the path to a balanced budget. We balanced it for 4 years. He led the fight to reform welfare, a huge entitlement that he changed for the good. He's fought the Pentagon. This guy is a leader. He's done it in Washington. He's done it in Ohio. And, when I look at the candidates that are out there, John Kasich is the guy that has the demeanor not only to lead us domestically on domestic policy, but also has the demeanor and the background to lead us internationally.
Do you think John Kasich has a chance to win in Wisconsin?
I think John's got a chance to win in Wisconsin. I've seen some polls in the last couple of days that it's Cruz. I think it was Cruz and Trump were around 30 or low 30s. John was right around 20. That's not a lot of ground to make up in roughly a week and a half. And I think as John spends time in Wisconsin, he's demonstrating. He's up, I think, in Pennsylvania, or it's within the margin of error with him and Trump in Pennsylvania. And it's clear John's got to start winning some contests, but I think he's going to start winning. In Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, maybe two of the places where we start seeing the real move.
And Donald Trump and Ted Cruz seem to be engaged in an all-out war. We talked about an all-out war with Islamic terrorism, but they seem to be engaged in an all-out war as well. Not on the issues, but right now the big debate is about their wives. Do you think John Kasich is a little offended that his wife has not been brought into the argument?
I think John is thrilled that Karen is not part of the argument. Throughout this campaign, John has always been talking about the issues. He's never gotten into this, personality clashes with any of the candidates. And it's another one of the reasons I like John. It's all about substance and content. America needs leaders that are going to focus on substance and content and lead. And I've met Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is a great guy. I've never met Donald Trump, and obviously he's got some strong qualities as well. You don't get to be successful in business without being a strong, effective leader as well. But I got to believe that both of them wish that they hadn't gone down this road and that they were talking about the issues. That's the debate that they need to have. That's the debate the Republicans need to have, and that's the debate that we need to have moving into November about, this is a critical election about the future of America domestically and internationally. We need to be talking about the issues so that people can be informed.
That makes sense. I actually had the opportunity to meet John the other week, right before the Illinois primary, and he truly is a gentleman, and he stuck to the issues. We met before the town hall in downtown Chicago, and he was truly a gentleman, a funny guy, and he did fairly well in the Illinois primary. I'm sort of shocked that Donald Trump won, but he's surprising a lot of people around the country. But John Kasich is. It sounds like he is sort of betting on there being a contested convention, and that will be his shot potentially to the presidency.
I think that's exactly right. The only person really who has a legitimate shot at getting to 1237 on the first ballot, the number of votes you need to get selected as a Republican nominee right now is Donald Trump. And if John or Ted, either one of them catches some fire, or they both catch some fire, and Donald Trump stumbles over the next 2 months, we're going to be very much on our way to a multi-ballot convention, and who knows what happens at that point in time. A multi-ballot convention could be John Kasich, could be Ted Cruz, could be Donald Trump, or it could be somebody that's not even running right now.
Well, former Congressman Pete Hoekstra, former House Intelligence Committee Chairman, we appreciate your insight on politics, on the issues affecting the world. And hopefully we'll have you back on real soon. I know people can follow you on Twitter to get your take on a lot of these important issues. Encourage people to check you out online at Pete Hoekstra.
Right. The other thing they can do is they can check us out on our report that's coming out tomorrow on the Investigative Project on Terrorism on the Global Threat.
Fantastic. And where can people find that?
That would be at theinvestigativeproject.org.
Theinvestigativeproject.org. Thank you, Pete. Thanks for joining us after the break. I've got Mark Kalish telling us a little bit about the legislative updates out of Springfield, Illinois, our state capital. You're listening to Get Down to Business, the show that's all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship.
Terror strikes